Welcome everyone. In this SOLIDWORKS simulation users primer for 3D Experience, we'll be looking at the analysis of a crank assembly in both SOLIDWORKS and 3D Experience. One of the main differences is the user interface. So here I would like to just provide an overview of the 3D Experience interface and draw some parallels and differences to the SOLIDWORKS interface. So let's get started. SOLIDWORKS excels at providing ease of access to commands. There is the menu bar, both text and icon options, context menus on the feature tree, as well as in the graphics area, and the command manager ribbon. 3D Experience does not have an equivalent of the menu bar, so if that is the main way you interact with SOLIDWORKS, you will need to learn a different approach. The primary mode of working in 3D Experience is the action bar. This is most equivalent to the command manager in SOLIDWORKS. So if that is the way you already work, you should find the transition easier. In SOLIDWORKS, the command manager ribbon is generally organized left to right with groups of similar commands together. In the Simulation tab, you can progress through to set up fixtures, then loads, then run the study, then check results. This is the same in 3D Experience, except that the action bar is also organized by tabs. For instance, in Collaborative Lifecycle, there are commands for revisioning, branching, and duplicating objects in the Lifecycle tab. Then there are commands for sharing or changing the ownership of objects in the Collaboration tab. Each tab you can think of as a grouping within the SOLIDWORKS Command Manager ribbon. The action bar is the primary way I would advise new users to think about creating features. There are context menus in 3D Experience, but I would advise new users to use these on the feature tree as a way to edit that feature. The context menus and options available can be very dependent on the object selected, as well as the app you are in, so they tend to be more focused than the more universal approach in SOLIDWORKS, where you see many options. As such, you may not find an option you expect due to other factors. The action bar tends to be the most comprehensive and robust way of having command options available, hence why I recommend trying to learn using this first. Just like the SOLIDWORKS Command Manager, there may be some things you can't do via the action bar, but this is often the easiest way to see and choose what command you may wish to do. We mentioned that the action bar in 3D Experience has tabs. However, these serve a different purpose to the Command Manager tabs in SOLIDWORKS. In 3D Experience, the tabs are groupings of similar commands within one application. The lifecycle, collaboration, product modification, etc. In SOLIDWORKS, the tabs change the application, so there is a sketch tab, an assembly tab, and a simulation tab. These then change the contents of the ribbon to give commands relevant to that application. The equivalent in 3D Experience are the applications, which are found under the compass. When you switch application, you are switching the type of thing you wish to do. So if we're in Collaborative Lifecycle, which is mainly PLM aspects, then switch to Structural Model Creation app, which is mainly creating and editing finite element models, the action bar switches, and we have different tabs with different commands within them. 3D Experience apps are thus most equivalent to SOLIDWORKS Command Manager tabs. Note, there are some tabs which don't change when you switch apps. On the left there is the Standard tab, which provides things like update to make sure everything is updated. On the right there is the View tab, with commands for manipulating the view, and the Tools tab, which provides commonly useful commands like formulas, measuring, materials. These persistent tabs I think of as utility tabs. No matter what application you are in, then you may need to do these types of commands. So they remain common across nearly all of the apps. These persistent utility tabs are similar to things like the Evaluate Command Manager tab. This helps thinking about the action bar as the primary user interface location for creating features, because it has the commands for the particular application you are doing, as well as these utility commands. A final aspect I wish to cover is apps and branch levels. We've seen that switching feature tree levels can switch apps. Double-click on the FEM and we switch to the Structural Model Creation app. Double-click on the assembly and we switch to Collaborative Lifecycle app. This is similar to changing from Sketch to Study to Assembly tabs on the Command Manager in SOLIDWORKS. However, we can have multiple apps that work on the same feature tree level. For instance, in SOLIDWORKS, the Features tab has the standard 3D model features such as extrusion and revolved boss. This will create features in the part, but you can also have the Sheet Metal tab, which has things like base flange and lofted flange. Again, this will create features in the part. With 3D Experience, we don't see multiple apps simultaneously, but the same concept applies. There can be many apps which work on the same level. Here, at the assembly level, we are in Collaborative Lifecycle, but we can switch back to Model Assembly Design app. This app has the batch meshing of model commands, so works at the same level as Collaborative Lifecycle. Now, if we switch back to the FEM, then back to the assembly, the question could be, which of the many apps at this level do you go into? The general rule is that if there are multiple apps possible, then whichever one you were last in will be the one to go into, the assumption being that you wish to do more of the commands that you were doing when you were last at that level. Here, that is the Model Assembly Design app. This can take a bit of getting used to, particularly when commands change between apps, but also the context menus can change between apps. So if you aren't seeing what you expect, check you are in the correct app. To summarize, the user interfaces of SOLIDWORKS and 3D Experience are very different. However, there are similar concepts. The Command Manager tabs in SOLIDWORKS are equivalent to the apps within 3D Experience. These allow you to change from doing one type of activity to another. As with the Command Manager tabs, multiple apps can work at the same level. So if you don't see the commands you expect, check the app and use the compass to change to the app you want to be in. The Command Manager ribbon is a persistent display of the commands you can do within an activity, and this is equivalent to the action bar in 3D Experience. So that is my advice to SOLIDWORKS users. Think about working in 3D Experience by using the action bar, just like you would think about working with the Command Manager in SOLIDWORKS. This will help you navigate the new interface. Thank you for your attention.